Good evening. I am Amadin Ogbewe. Now, following the accusation by former freedom fighter in the Niger Delta region, Mr. Asari Dokubo, accusing the Nigerian military of being responsible for 99.9% of oil theft in the region, the conversations regarding this menace has begun to resurface. Tonight, we'll be speaking to someone who is a major stakeholder and someone who used to be in the creeks, a former militant, about this particular issue and the way forward. My guest tonight is Mr. Retson Tedekhe. He's a farmer and a former militant. He speaks to us about the issue of oil theft in the region. Right, good evening, Mr. Retson. How are you doing?
Good evening. I'm okay. I'm good.
All right, let's go straight into it. There have been renewed talk, so to speak, or conversation about oil theft in the Niger Delta region, and a major part of what spurred this on was comments by, former freedom fighter and agitator Asari Dokubo, alleging or accusing the army of being responsible, the military, of 99% of oil theft in the region. What's your take on this?
He's correct. He's right.
You're saying the government is involved?
Absolutely. One of the challenges of the Nigerian state is that too many of us lie to ourselves. The common man in the Niger Delta region goes to the pipeline, and I'm saying this because I've been there. I'm an ex-militant, own my own boiling points, and so I can give you a first-hand insight. The common man does not steal, I want to use the word in quotes, more than 500 liters, 1,000 liters, maximum 100,000 liters. And you use what we call Cotonou boats. If you're in the creek, Cotonou boats are not your normal boats. They're a little bit bigger. They can take 1 or 2, 3,000 liters of tank. So they use those to take, either you're taking LPO, you're taking whatever NPC is pushing through the line. But that is not what is happening when Nigeria is when we talk about Nigeria losing revenue. That is not where we're losing revenue. We're losing revenue where from the loading terminals, from our wellheads, tugboats, and small crude vessels, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 tons vessels go into those wellheads, go into these flow stations, go into these points of extracting crude, and then you pump them into those smaller vessels, who now go ahead to transmit them into 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 tons vessel. That then move those vessels to the creek to move them deep into the sea, where you have 50, 100, 200,000 VLCC anchored. And then those, you either dump them into floating storage tank in the sea, or you get them into, like I said, VLCC, very large crude carriers, who now take them to their destinations. Now, context is very, very key, because when you want to have this conversation about the criminality in the Niger Delta, people don't understand the context. A 10,000 tons vessel is about 160 meters long and about 20 to 30 meters wide. So you're looking at a football field, a hectare of land on the sea. You're looking at about between 3 to 10-story building in the sea. So, bros, that is going to be costed. I'm talking about a 10,000 ton vessel. I'm not talking about 50,000 or so. That will cost on the average of about 25,000, between $15,000 to $25,000 or higher. Okay? $10,000 today now about 7.7 million, maybe so. About 8 million naira. So how many ordinary, small-minded Niger Delta militants, like myself then, will be able to afford to pay 15 million naira daily to hire that vessel with the capacity and intelligence to move that vessel into the loading point, into the oil head, into the oil well to load, and have the security to move them from all of the various government flow points into to the high sea with the type of clearance that you need to get it out. So when we have this conversation, like I often said, context is key. People don't understand the context. The criminality going on in the Niger Delta, which is one of the things that led most of us into the creek, into bunkering, is so pervasive, so annoying, and so destructive that the biggest men in the society, major oil companies, government agencies, security apparatus, are all involved in looting from the Nigerian state.
Is there any proof for this?
What do you need proof? What proof you need? I mean, all your government agencies keep telling you that, even the armed forces keep telling you that you are losing about 30, 40, 50% of your productive capacity through oil theft. What proof? Which proof you can't need again? If the guys where the manager they tell you say, it's a loss, where do you go? Now the drink. Now me the drink. I'm simply telling you that it's not a common man who is burning, who gets a small processing unit in the creek, and all he needs a day is 1, 2, 3, maybe 10,000 liters of crude. Is that where you're losing your money? So you don't. What is the proof you're looking for? The proof is that it is missing, and the small man cannot carry it. So for you to be able to get it from the point of production to take it to Rotterdam, take it to all the international ports, when they receive it, is that somebody who is strategic enough, rich enough, and connected enough is able to move it out of the system. So what proof do you need? Like a corporate can't give you. The reality is that the proof is that it's missing. And the only people who can get it from the point of production to the point of sale are the people who have access to wealth, who are connected, and who have access, who are in government. What proof do I need to give you? Should I begin to call names for you? What name am I going to call for you that is going to satisfy the point? The point is that there's no name I can really call for you because it's a business. And I'm going to give you another example so that you understand how sometimes how we contribute to the destruction of our states. Is, for example, when you talk about cattle rustling, which is something that is causing problem between herders and farmers. Cows are stolen. How do you think they're able to get these cows from the bush into the market? Somebody provides truck, isn't it? Somebody provides arm. Let us use that word. Somebody also provides the market. So for where cattle are rustled to where they are sold is a chain. And that chain is not handled by the ordinary Fulani herdsman. It's a business. And that is what needs to change in the Nigerian state. The mentality that the country must keep bleeding because a few people keep taking from the states, feeding fat on the states, and underdeveloping the state. That reality must change. Until and unless we change that reality, you're not changing your country and you're not growing your state.
All right. The question now is, the way forward. When Mr. Dokubo was speaking, there's the implication that the people who can actually curtail this are the people you mentioned that are being blamed. The people who know their creeks, who know who is who knows what go around. This has already been done to an extent with another former agitator in the person of Tompolo. The government brought him in, put him on some sort of monitoring or security apparel contract where he actually has, brought in some things. He has shown some level of theft. He has exposed some persons who were caught in the act and so on and so forth. So do you think more of this is the solution? Bringing the people who are actually in the matter and saying, you know what, this oil comes from your region. You know what goes on around here. So we're sort of outsourcing this job to you to do for us. Is that a viable solution?
Absolutely. The Americans could not win in Vietnam because it was not their terrain. They also failed in Korea. Of course, maybe South Korea, North Korea, they lost because it's not their terrain. And as recently as a couple of years ago, they failed in Afghanistan. Why? Because it's not the terrain they understand. The first thing you do is that these communities must become protectors of their own resources. Now, how do they become protectors of their own resources if they are not partakers in their own wealth? So the first thing you do is that if you want a man who is stealing from himself To understand the implication of stealing from himself, you develop that man. And then the man begins to understand that the source of development is his own wealth. So why would I steal what is taking care of myself and my own community? For generations, the Niger Delta region has not been developed. I'm a farmer who left the creek to farm in Nasarawa State. Now, palm oil is more expensive than crude oil. Have you developed the palm oil capacity of the Niger Delta region? The NDDC, for example, is an agency that was set up to develop the Niger Delta region. Instead, it has become an agency that is set up to waste the resources of the Niger Delta region. So, the first thing you do is to grow the people and develop their capacity to become productive. Once you do that, they now begin to see the oil as a source of development and productive opportunity, not as a source of punishment. You see, in the interview with Fumi yonder, I said there cannot be no remorse. Why would there be remorse when I know that from the region that produced the oil is suffering debilitating underdevelopment? And you want me to feel remorse for tapping into the pipeline or busting it and taking crude from it? Then I couldn't feel the remorse. Of course, I get to feel the remorse when I leave. So the people must become a part of their own security. Like this popular saying, say, if you want cash, if you want make meat, sort to the meat for pot, the person who they suspect that the thief, the meat you go do, give her the pot to hold. Isn't it? So the first thing you do is, like what the government, if you look at in recent times, the productivity, the production level, the volume of production of crude has increased because the local people are the best security you can get. That's number one. Number two, ask yourself, one of the best ways to quell agitation is to what? Is to provide for the security, like I said earlier. For the comfort of the people, like I said earlier. But the agencies of government that are saddled with the responsibility of managing the resources of the people, how well have they fared? NDDC, the Ministry of the Niger Delta, the Amnesty Program. These are some of the agencies that were set up to ensure that whatever is taken from the region benefits the people. How well have these agencies fared? So government also must come in and ensure there is proper monitoring, evaluation of activities, auditing of this agency in the region.
What do you make for the argument that if militants left the creeks with their weapons and what they had been doing, that these initiatives are working? Are they really working?
Go leave the creek and go to where?
I mean, in the past we used to see kidnappings of some persons and so on and so forth till the Yaradua period where the amnesty was rolled out. So can people say that the issue that was at hand, it's no longer happening? So definitely we fix things.
The issue is still at hand. Of course,
at a high level of militants.
Of course, you can say it's reduced, but it's still there. What you want is you want improved productivity, right? You want government revenue to increase. You want the money government is making to actually come to government, so that government can actually have something to spend on the people, right? That's what you want. The question is, how do you ensure that government revenue increases? Okay, over the last couple of years, you have attempted several options. The military is always in the region. The Navy is always there. The Army is always there. But almost every 1, 2, 3 kilometers in the creek, you have an Army boathouse. So it is not that the military or the armed forces is not there. They are there. Now, but if you're still losing, of course, there's improved security in the region, yes. You have to give some credit to the past administration and then the one before that for improved security. But the stealing is still ongoing, okay? Now, your question, if I understand it clearly, is that if you take out the rural people or the local people, won't that be a way forward? Is that what you're saying? Yeah. The question is, it is they who know the terrain and who know the region that can help us solve the problem in the region. You cannot develop a people without the interest of the people, without participation of the people in the region. If you cannot go to the northeast, for example, and say you want to eliminate Boko Haram, without having to involve the local people in the process of eliminating Boko Haram, because why? The local people understand the terrain, they know most of these guys who are involved with Boko Haram, so it is easy for them to conquer that virus or that challenge by getting involved in the process. That is exactly what must happen in the Niger Delta region. So we, the people from Niger Delta region, of course, I keep using the word we, even I'm in Nasarawa State as a farmer now. Anyway, we in the Niger Delta region and we as farmers in the north, they must be involved in the solution, or else there can be no solution.
What's the level of involvement now? Are you okay with it? Take, for instance, Tompolo being a part of this. Does there need to be more?
Absolutely.
How much more?
I mean, let the people be comfortable with protecting their own systems. It's the only thing you need to do is actually to monitor them. And let the armed forces do their job. And what is their job? Protect the wealth of the Nigeria state. The government of President Muhammadu Buhari provided a lot of resources and tools for the armed forces. The Navy improved their machineries over the course of the last 8 years, right? Let them do their job of policing production in the region. Let them not become a part of the problem. Let it be a solution to the problem. So that whatever the local people needs to do to enhance security can become effective, can work. That's exactly what we're saying. And so when Asari Dokubo, what Asari Dokubo was even doing is actually not accusation per se. It's look at the reality and how do we solve them. And his belief is that the current president, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, understand that there needs to be solution that works, not solution for the books. And the solution that works are solutions that looks at the people's interest, look at the people's need, solve their interest, solve their need, while elevating the status of Nigerian productivity and enhancing our revenue. That is the solution that works. So you cannot eliminate the people, take the people out of the equation, and think you're going to have the solution. No. Even if the people are not involved in security, if you want to use the army for security, let the people be involved in monitoring those who will secure. But because the Nigerian armed forces have the apparatus to monitor, you can employ the people to what? To become actors as a baseline for basic understanding of the system and security. Then the military can, or the armed forces can then do the rest. But there has to be that synergy. And if you ask me, we need more monitoring and evaluation in the region so that both parties can work together, but they have to. You can't throw the local people out and say, a foreign body can come and dominate what? Now, now we get on. Come help us make them easy, so that all of us could get something. But the agencies of government saddled with that responsibility must be what? Must be monitored, must be audited. Look, I always go back to the NDDC. Trillions wasted on nothing. Because one of the reasons the people agitate and they steal, or in most cases they turn a blind eye, we are not saying, or they even support government apparatus, big men with money, is that they don't get anything from the system. So if somebody comes and offers me 1 million to help escort a particular type of vessel through corners or show him routes where the thing is going to get to the high sea, I will do it. Why? Because there's money for me to work with. And why? Because if I have 1 million and I end up giving 200,000 or 300,000 to my people, they will have something to work with. So once the people feel a part ownership of the system, of the security apparatus, of the monitoring of the infrastructure that supports their own development and growth. Look at the Borno Bridge. Okay? For the first time in the history of the what do you call it? Of Boni, we have a bridge that connects the island to the mainland. Those are the things we're talking about. So Buhari said, look, let us get the people road that links them to the major cities. So they're not afraid. There's access road, there's potable water, there's electricity. When people begin to feel the impact of government, the people will become the security that you need. I use my example in Nasarawa. The Fulani headsman, what do you call it? The local Mada people, the Egons, the Hausas, are all part of the security apparatus because they see the farm as a source of livelihood. So I can sleep in Gati fearlessly. The Robo headsman can sleep in Gati. Why? Because they feel a part of the ownership, because there is road, because there's electricity, because there is dam, all provided by the farm, not by government. And they feel a part ownership, and so they can secure the farm for me. Imagine if government is providing all of this, they will feel the need to protect government infrastructure within the area. That's exactly what the Nigerian are doing. That's exactly what Nigeria needs. That's exactly what we expect Asiwaju to do for the Nigerian state.
Thank God you brought him up. I was just about to ask, go to that direction. We've seen that in the last couple of weeks or days, the president has, like he promised to do, hit the ground running, and is making a series of decisions. What would be your, recommendations or expectations when it comes to the Niger Delta? He has begun an investigation into the EFCC chairman and the EFCC by extension, the CBN governor, and people are saying, isn't it time to take a look at the NNPC, as regards issues of the fuel subsidy matter being a scam or some criminal element or whatever is being called. So what are the expectations in that regard, being that this is a new president who has made decisions that are even drastically opposite to what his predecessor made just some weeks before?
I often tell people, I often make people understand that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is, I think, one of the only politicians in Nigeria without a godfather. Okay? Now, because he's one of the only politicians in Nigeria without a godfather, there is nothing that he will not be able to do to right the ship. And now, so your question is coming from the area of, okay, he's hit the ground running, yes. More investigation needs to take place here, and Nigeria needs to work. That for us, that is the key. The question is, can he do it? For goodness sake. This is a president who, when Obasanjo seized the revenue of Lagos State, Lagos survived. What did he do? He broke Lagos into LCDs, where every unit is responsible for not just revenue, but for development and productivity. So that they can actually you can zoom into that LCD and say, look, what did you do for here? How are you impacting on the lives of the people? What are your needs? How do we fix them? And if we fix them, what are we expected from that zone? That is exactly what he's going to do with the Nigerian state. Lagos is the most productive state in this country, but if you also observe, Lagos is a state that has continued to grow, even if it is incrementally, even if it's gradually, over time. That's what we expect in the energy sector. That's what we expect in the oil sector. That's what we expect in the agricultural sector, most importantly. So the expectation on him are much, because Nigeria needs to lift. But if you look at what he has done, is to set the agenda, set the narrative, let Nigerians dictate the narrative. The narrative is his. The focus is his. Nigerians are plugging into what he's doing. So when you bring in agencies like the NNPC, like NDDC, and all of them, whether in the Niger Delta region, the Federal Ministry of Agric, the CBN, the Anchor Borrowers Program, what you are simply saying now with the CBN is a look, with the CBN, the EFCC, and all of them, is a look at the Nigerian, not just the Nigerian revenue structure, the Nigerian expedition structure, and the Nigerian growth structure. And how do you develop them and make sure that every Nigerian become a participant? He said during the campaign, if you listen, he said, I am going to remove subsidy. Whether you like, fight. If you like, protest, go on strike, it will go. Because subsidy was beginning to bleed the Nigerian revenue structure. And you see, people talk about the need for us to grow, the need for us to develop our infrastructure. If you're not going to grow the infrastructure, so you need revenue, you need to earn. And whatever little you earn, you're not going to throw it away on subsidizing consumption. You should throw it into subsidizing production. And that is where agriculture comes to play. So the focus for the administration is simple. How do you cut waste? How do you improve revenue? And how do you subsidize what matters? So all of this will, at the end of the day, bring into focus agencies like the NNPC. What have you done with the revenue generated for the Nigerian state because you are a Nigerian company? All of this will bring into focus federal, I think Inner Revenue Service, FRS, yes. The revenue collection agencies. It's going to bring into agencies all of the component, and as recently as I think this past week, even the shipping structures, Nigerian shipping state, one of the news we heard was that they'll be giving about 3 months to reconcile the lack of revenue from them between 2010 or 2019. So he is going to focus on revenue. And he said it, we have been saying it for a very long time. Nigeria does not have a debt problem. Nigeria has a revenue problem. We are not generating enough. We are one of the lowest tax nation in the world. Our tax to revenue, I think our tax to GDP, tax revenue ratio is around 7.70%. We are not collecting enough tax in Nigeria. Yes, you can make the case that we're not producing enough. So what do you want to collect a tax? Who do you want to collect tax from? So the first thing you do is what? Is to boost productivity so that you can enhance your revenue base.
All right, I'm so sorry to cut it short there. We've run out of time, but it's been interesting talking to you, and I believe we've taken the advice we've given here by hearing directly from you, rather than maybe some experts who don't even know about the region. So thank you so much for coming on the program. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome. But meanwhile, yeah. I am no longer in the creek.
Definitely.
Agriculture.
Yes.
About the revolution.
Thank you
That's
very
what
much.
matters now.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.